Good morning. This is Judy Westegaard Jenkins. Caution, you are about to enter an artistic zone. This is not clutter. This is creating. And these aren't pajamas. It's my work uniform.
Imagine what I could do if this painting studio were clean.
When my studio is clean, imagine I'll be able to take and turn a tiny little canvas into a marvelous work of art. I'll contemplate quotes from Albert Einstein while drinking wine. When my studio is clean, I'll be able to put the tea back into paint. When my studio is clean, I'll be able to play Spin the Globe and find out where I'm going to go on my next painting adventure. Just think of all the time I'll have to knit little hats for all of my studio mannequins. Think of all the time I'll be able to spend arranging and playing with my watercolor tins and all of my art supply collectibles and painting ephemera. I'll be able to spend lots of times drawing and coming up with new patterns and designs, all while listening to Adam Levine. You never know what might be behind these closet doors. I can just imagine what's going to happen when I roll out my paintbrushes. I try to keep them all organized by brand or by type of paintbrush so that I can find them as soon as I need them. I also have all of my colored pencils stored so that I can pull those out and use them easily. Top shelf here, I have lots of my sprays, my travel brushes, and then I can also roll out all of my drawing supplies, markers, different types of mediums, pencils, crayons, more markers, and since I'm on a roll, I have more brushes and more brushes and more brushes. And finally, this is my medium drawer where I keep lots of the mediums that I use for both oils and acrylics. And down here, I have my oil paints and other things that I use not quite as often. If my studio was clean, there'd be two of me to get more things done. Here's a cabinet where it's just one that I use to keep in binders of painting packets, items to be painted on, more items to be painted on, and occasionally I hang up a piece of my artwork. The center clean cabinet is probably my most used cabinet in my studio. Here I keep my printer, which is an 11 by 17, so I can print or scan just about anything in a large scale. I have all of my papers for printing. I have my mini office supplies. I have more rollouts so that I can find things when I need them. I keep my camera equipment so I can pull those out in a flash. This shelf houses some of my specialty papers and a lot of my book projects and seminar projects so that I can reach them handily. And this is the most important shelf in my entire studio. This is where I keep the chocolate. In the clean studio of my dreams, I have cabinets that have my Cricut cutter. I have miscellaneous wood pieces, lots of things to paint for Patty Rollinson. I have all kinds of miscellaneous embellishments and findings, buttons, all kinds of goodies in the bottom, and the back's full of scrapbook paper for doing multi and mixed media. Finally, I have my area that I keep all of my paint for seminars and all the different brands of paint from different companies. I keep my stencils on a rollout so that I can dig through and find them when I need them. I have an area for miscellaneous items. I love this area. This is where I keep all of my drawing and tracing paper, my sketch pads. I have palettes here. I have my sheet protectors for making pattern packets. And then I have baskets full of miscellaneous things that I need in the studio. And on top, I put things that I never need to get to. In fact, I need to clean that shelf. Imagine in my clean studio, I can see into the mirrors. I put these mirrors in simply because I wanted to have a break in just a span of white doors. And I felt since this is in a basement location, by having mirrors, I would be able to reflect the light in the room. And I use them all the time when I'm working on something. I might hold the project up and I looked at it more objectively in the mirror. I also have an IKEA cart that I keep my paints that I use on a daily basis in, and easy to reach. I've got a basket at the end that I can keep a palette, some tape, saran wrap, anything that I might need. You can see I like to sit at a high stool, and I can adjust that. A lot of times when I paint, I like to stand. I also like this surface because I can use it as a large drawing table, or I can adjust the table legs for different heights. Here you can see how I can adjust that so I can draw at it, or I can actually paint at a large canvas with this. I keep all of my paint brushes that I want to use on a daily basis right next to me. This is an antique sugar mold from Mexico, and it's great. I can keep chalk pencils, mop brushes, pens, pencils, scissors, miscellaneous brushes. These are turntables that I found that fit my Traditions paint perfectly, and I really enjoy being able to have them right at my fingertips. When my studio is clean, I can imagine I am going to be able to sit all day and read painting books and eat chocolate. When my studio is clean, I can imagine I'll have time for cleaning other things, like polishing this Hoosier cupboard that was my great-grandmother's. I inherited it, and it was actually my very first painting studio. I used to store all of my paints in the drawers. They fit perfectly. I use the bottom for files and painting books. I use this area to store any wood pieces, and I kept my brushes in the divided drawers. And now I use it to house a collection of houses made by a friend, and it holds the studio of my dreams that she made for me. Oh, imagine the symphony of color I'll paint for my studio friends when my studio is clean. Imagine all the time I'm going to have to go hiking in the woods just a mile away from my house. when my studio is all organized and clean. In fact, I think I'll probably want to come down here to see a little wildlife. This glorious spot is less than a mile away from my home, right in the heart of the Niagara Escarpment. Don't you think this is a glorious place for me to come and rinse out my water bucket? I better get back to my studio. I have brushes to clean. I have paint in every color imaginable. And I have pencils that are just begging to draw. If my studio were this clean, I could really paint every single day. Well, I better get busy and clean my studio. I can always paint tomorrow.